All right, Retrowolf88. Good to have you on the recording. I didn't know that we were going to be able to knock this out as soon as possible, because I know that you have been picking up a lot in subs lately, which congratulations for over, I think it's like 6,500 subs you're up to right now.
Yeah, it's almost 6,700. We should hit 6,700 probably in the next few days, I would say.
Holy cow, that's
Mhm.
a hell of an accomplishment, because I know that it's been an uphill climb considering that you got
Yeah.
your start on YouTube around, I think it was like at the very beginning of January. Do you think it was
Mhm.
like that difficult for you to be able to get to that accomplishment, or did you actually get help from other content creators to get your channel out there to other people to watch?
So yeah, it was January 2019. I would say the first year and a half was definitely slow. We hit our first 1,000 subscribers, I think a little bit over our first year, a little bit. Yeah, I think it was like February after our first year. And then I started to meet more people in the community, become friends with other people in the community, and because networking is a big part of it. If you want to be successful at YouTube, you got to network. And usually, whenever you start a channel and you meet people in the community, you'll naturally become friends with a lot of them, and a lot of times you'll become friends with bigger YouTubers. So I have had a few opportunities where I've been able to be in other YouTubers' videos, mainly Retro Rick. That was a big one this past January when I sold him my first complete GameCube collection. So that was a big one, and that got us a big boost. But now after that, it was almost like that was the spark that lit the fire because now we're just, it's really led to well, we've also changed our content. We're doing, different content now. So that between those two things, it's definitely led to a lot more growth, which I'm still I can't even wrap my mind around it because when I first started YouTube, I never thought I would even, I mean, I never thought I'd hit 1,000 subscribers, much less 5,000, 6,000, and we're anticipating we're going to hit 10K before the end of the year is kind of what we're projecting.
Holy cow. That's like an accomplishment for anybody, because I think on one of my older channels, I think we did over 1,300. But
Mhm.
the hardest part about content creation is trying to do stuff in your own way while at the same time being able to differentiate as like your own type of brand. What do you feel is like the hardest part about getting a new video out? Is it because of the floodgate of the same idea, or is it just the fact of you already did this one thing and you want to accomplish this because it's something you've had in the backlog for a while?
I mean, I think the hardest part is exactly what you said is like trying to figure out a way to differentiate yourself from all of the other similar content on YouTube. And I think the best way to do that is to, I mean, obviously you want to watch other people's channels to support them as much as you can, as much as you have time to, your fellow YouTubers. If you enjoy their content, you want to watch their content and support them. But it's almost like you also don't want to watch their content too much because you don't want to accidentally not steal ideas, but have the way you might hear a dog in the background. The way they do things, you don't want that to bleed into your own stuff too much because you want to maintain your own originality and creativity. So it's a hard balance, but yeah, I mean, it's really hard to figure out a way to differentiate yourself, but it really just boils down to doing what you think is best for your videos and doing what you like to do, what makes you happy, what you think is fun and enjoyable. And usually that will lead to you being able to come up with something unique to differentiate yourself. Hopefully that answered your question.
Oh, it certainly does. And that's the other thing I wanted to cover over, because Retro Gaming Pandemic, who you know personally, I
Hmm.
got to talk with them back during CORGS, and they are honestly to me like one of the nicest group of guys to be able to meet. And something I didn't even know beforehand was that they're from Columbus, and I'm actually located in Lima, so it actually does help to be able to know any talents that are online that are definitely getting popular to be able to bounce off of each other. But
Hmm.
since I brought them up, Since you're a one-man team, what do you think is like the hardest part about putting any of your videos together? Is it mostly just you editing by yourself, or do you think it's just trying to find good enough deals to be able to make video content off of it?
So let me correct you on one thing. I'm actually not a one-man team. This is a
Oh, really?
Retrowolf88 is a yeah, it's a two-man team.
Oh.
So my nephew Devin, he's the one that started the channel with me, and we've been 50-50 partners on the channel from the very, very beginning. He primarily edits all of the videos. Now, in the beginning, we were kind of splitting editing duties, but these days, he edits like 95% of everything because he is a very, very talented video editor. But he also here lately has been appearing in a lot more videos. Some of the hunting episodes he started to premiere in, and um, our next two hunting episodes, yeah, our next two hunting episodes he will be in quite a bit. So yeah, it's not just me. It's I'm only one half of Retro Wolf 88. I'm the on-camera, on-screen half, and then Devin is kind of the off-camera half that makes the magic happen. He does what I think is the more important thing, which is editing. Because I mean, you can have a good idea all day long. You can
Hmm.
shoot good footage all day long. You can have a good on-camera presence all day long. But if you can't edit a video in a creative way and put together that final product, none of that stuff means anything. So without Devin, Retro Wolf 88 would definitely not be what it is right now.
It's always good to be able to have a family member or friend who's actually talented to do stuff
Yeah.
like that. Because, yeah, like you said, you would probably have. I know some people will probably know what I'm talking about, but with channels like Pat the NES Punk and AVGN, who were doing like high quality stuff back in like the late 2000s before the 2010s, it was just webcam vlog videos of like pickups, and there was like no
Yep.
editing. And I know
Yep.
how tough that is for anybody who's not good enough to edit to be able to get stuff like that out and just look very poor quality. But since I mentioned that, what to you is all about quality for your content, as far as like the assembling of videos together?
For me, it's just, I mean, it's everything. I try to everything from the idea to to the actual pre-production, the production, the post-production, the editing, the on-cam being having a good on-camera presence.
Hmm.
It's all important. I look at it all as equally important, because I want at the end of the day, I want the final product. I want all aspects of that final product to be as high quality as I can possibly make it, but at the same time, I'm not, I try not to, trying to figure out the best way to phrase this. I try not to let myself be content with that level of qualities. What I mean by that is I'm always trying to learn something new or improve something, even if it's something tiny, man, even if it's a tiny improvement, those tiny improvements add up over time. And eventually those tiny improvements will start to make a noticeable difference. So me and Devin both were always trying to learn new things and make better changes that improve the quality and entertainment value of the videos. And I think that that should always be the case. Even if you got millions of subscribers, you should never, let yourself go stagnant. You should, because there's always something to learn, man.
Hmm.
Always something new to learn. Always something you can improve upon there, because there's never going to be a perfect video that perfect, because perfect is not a thing that exists, right? So there's always some way that you can improve. So yeah, that's kind of the mentality and philosophy that we follow. And it's if you were to go back and look at our first videos
Hmm.
compared to what we do now, it's a huge, 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 huge difference in quality, like night and day. And that's the way that anytime somebody asks me for advice, that's one thing that I always tell them: constantly, constantly try to learn new things and try to find ways to improve your video, even if it's just a tiny improvement, because it adds up.
Oh, definitely. And that was the other thing I was going to ask about. Since you mentioned about your channel, the name Retrowolf88, I assume that there's a reasoning for why you chose that, but someone's first thought would probably be, did you just take the idea behind Mr. Beast's name and just made it into a retro video gaming label, or was it just something that has to do with a little bit of backstory from your life or something like that?
Well, no, I mean it's a lot. simpler than you might think. I mean, retro video games, retro things in general, I like. My last name is Wolf, and then 88 is the year I was born. So
Oh,
it's really,
really?
yeah, it's really that simple, you know. But so when we were trying to come up with a channel name, man, that's a hard thing, dude. Coming up with a channel name, that's hard. That is hard to do because it's like, you want to come up with something, number one, that's easy to remember, easy to say, easy to spell, but number two, you also want it to sound good, but you also want it to kind of describe what the content is. And that's really where the word retro, that's the most important word in the channel name because, I mainly focus on retro games and, stuff like that. So, coming up with a channel name is tough, man. I don't know how we came up with that one, but I mean, it works. It works, and it's kind of our brand now. So,
I would definitely say that it's a very unique name because not a lot of people usually have like an animal for their account aside
right.
from, like we said before, Mr. Beast. But if you weren't going to choose Retrowolf88, what would you want the channel to be called? Is it something that is off of like a popular franchise, or would it be something else that you'd be wanting to do instead?
If I were to focus only on GameCube content, because I would, the vast majority of my content the last couple of years has definitely focused more on the GameCube side of things. Even my
Hmm.
hunting episodes, I try to kind of theme them around the GameCube. So I would probably come up with some kind of channel name involving the word GameCube. I just don't know exactly what.
Since you brought up the GameCube, what, as far as like a game on that whole entire console, would you say is your personal favorite?
I'd say Resident Evil 4.
Oh,
Resident Evil
really?
4's, yeah, yeah, probably it's definitely sometimes I go back and forth, but it's definitely one of my favorite GameCube games of all time, and it's most certainly one of my favorite video games of all time, period.
And that's the other thing that I notice is that it is also in a lot of other people's top tens for the system. And
Yeah.
at the time, it was like one of the best exclusives up until it got re-released for the PS2. But the
Hmm.
one thing that I liked about Resident Evil 4 is that they changed it from the tank controls to the
Hmm.
over-shoulder, like, third-person camera view. And I think that since then, it's been the go-to style for the Resident Evil series. Do you
Hmm.
feel like that they would ever go back to the tank control style, or do you think that it's just only going to be third person from now on?
Yeah, tank controls they're too archaic, man. They would never go back to that. If they went back to that, people would be very, very angry. They got, I mean, as games evolve, they got to kind of stick with what the modern control schemes are for the most part. So they'll never go back to that. I mean, I mean, who knows? They could go back to that. You never know.
Since I talked about some gameplay footage, I know that some content creators usually do, like, for example, pickup videos and then they'll do, like, review videos. Is there, like, a certain style of content that you've always wanted to get your hands dirty on and just mess around with, or is it just only the collecting aspect that you're mostly comfortable with?
Well, I mean, before I started focusing primarily on hunting videos, I was doing a lot of reviews. I had my GameCube Gallery series where I would review a GameCube game every episode. That series, I'm going to continue it at some point, but it's kind of on hold for now. I've also done a lot of kind of list style videos for the GameCube and other consoles, like hidden gems and games that need to be remade and stuff like that. Um, so, I've kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. As far as something that I'd like to get into, yeah, I don't really know, man. Haven't really thought about that a whole lot. I'm so focused on what I'm doing now. You know, um, well, actually, I take that back. At some point, I do want to kind of get into more sketch type stuff, more comedic type stuff, more kind of short film narrative type stuff, but that also involves video games. And we do have a project in the works that probably won't be done for months and months and months and months and months, but it's going to be one of the
Ooh.
most insane and ambitious things we've ever done on the channel.
Well, you heard it here first. That's kind of a teaser of what things are coming to his channel. So we'll have to definitely come back to see how things are on that project next time.
Mhm. Yeah, it's going to, dude, it's literally going to be, I mean, it's probably going to be a couple hundred hours worth of work for
Oh,
this one.
wow.
Yeah, it's going to be very intense.
Hopefully, when the next time we do the update, that we'll be able to hear of like any behind the scenes stuff that you may have not mentioned on your
Hmm.
channel that you could actually talk here on it. But
Yeah.
since we mentioned about content that is being worked on for your channel, as
Hmm.
far as like location, whenever you try to find deals or whenever you try to find any filming locations to go to, what do you think is one of the biggest challenges to be able to get a video started on it? Is it mostly just a good enough deal that people would want to be able to click for, or is it mostly just because of like going to a convention that you wanted to
Hmm.
film at?
I kind of take two different approaches, and it really just depends on the location, on what approach I take. So sometimes I'll have an idea ahead of time going into a location, and then that kind of will frame how I do the video. Like as an example, I'm going to be coming to Columbus in August, and I'm going to be meeting up with Eric and Jared, and we're going to a couple of flea markets, and we've got a video idea that we know ahead of time. And so that's going to kind of dictate how we film things at the flea market. But a lot of times, what I do is, I'll go to a location and I'll start filming while I'm hunting. And a lot of times I won't know kind of what the story or theme of the video is going to be until we're done. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Because it kind of depends on what happens while I'm there, what I find while I'm there, any unique things or features about the location. Um, so yeah, it's kind of a combination of different approaches. We're gonna try to start coming up with more ideas ahead of time that we can shoot at different places, but I still like to go to places not having an idea in mind and just kind of see what happens and see if we can get a good video out of it.
And that's good enough to be able to get people hooked in, because I know that a lot of times there's not enough content or enough footage to be able to put into one video because they would just be too short.
Hmm.
And that's why I've seen a lot of times that, for example, people like John Riggs, they would do like a convention experience for the weekend and they would do like
Hmm.
day one would either have like a bunch of footage put in and to do like one video at a day or else do it to where it's like all in one shot. Is that the same for you sometimes, or is it just you think you have enough to be able to fit into like one whole video?
Yeah, it's really just if we think we have enough. So like as an example, here recently, we hit up a bunch of flea markets, a game store, a bunch of different places, and none of these places individually would have had enough footage to get a video out of it. But taking all of the places that we visited in that one day together and taking all of that footage that we filmed at all of the different places, then we can string all these places together into a single video. And I'm trying to remember what the kind of narrative was that I came up with, or the story idea
Hmm.
for that one. That one's not out yet. It'll be out in a few weeks. Yeah, I can't remember. Maybe I haven't come up with it yet. I don't know. I'll have to check on that. But yeah. So it really just depends.
Since we're on the topic about the video gaming side of like content creating, what to you is like the personal favorite bit of the hobby? Is it mostly just getting a game that you always wanted to get your hands on to be able to play, or is it
Mhm.
mostly just the community aspect of it where it's like you're networking and just being able to create any new videos that not a lot of people know about?
I mean, I would have to say hands down, the community has been my favorite part about it and the best part about it. I mean, I've met so many amazing people. I've become friends with so many amazing people. Some people I've become really good friends with, like Eric and Jared and others. It's a great community, a great, great, great community. And I would say 95% or more of the interactions that I have with people are just awesome, positive interactions. And then you got that 5% that's not so much, but the overwhelming majority of the interactions that I have with people in this community are incredible. I really feel like this community is more positive and good than it is negative and bad. It's just unfortunately the negative and bad stuff seems to have a louder voice, and so it makes it seem like it's more prevalent than it is, even though in reality it's not. I'm sure you know what I mean. It's
Oh
kind of like
yes.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of like with it's kind of like with cancel culture online.
Hmm.
Obviously, You know, the number of people that are in cancel culture is probably just significantly tiny compared to the vast majority of people in the country. It's just that they have such a loud voice. So it's kind of that same kind of idea. But to answer your question, definitely the community. That's been the best part. And then, you know, as far as like, I don't know, maybe you were going to ask this, but like, as far as like, do I like the collecting aspect more or the gaming aspect more? At the
Hmm.
end of the day, I'm a gamer. That's the most important thing to me at the end of the day. If you told me tomorrow that I had to either give up collecting or I had to give up gaming, I'm going to give up collecting without a second thought because that's what I ultimately love to do. Collecting is fun. It's a blast, but playing the games for me is the more enjoyable side of things.
Yeah, and I can understand that too, because I know that there's a lot of families that have gaming members in their own particular families. And the
Hmm.
one thing that they always do is a lot of them just like playing the games as a whole. And I know
Yeah.
that the whole hobby as it is right now is just so expensive with how prices have been just so like
Hmm.
skyrocketing high up. And I've had to experience this like when my shop was open in Muscle Shoals, that we would always be changing prices every single year. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's an expensive hobby, and I don't
Hmm.
blame anybody for wanting to stick to emulators to be able to play this stuff, because it's just,
Hmm.
it's almost impossible if people don't have like a very deep set of pockets to be able to spend on this type of hobby.
Well, you know, that's what I'm trying to. That is, I mean, it's definitely what you're saying is definitely true to a degree, but at the same time, I'm trying to figure out the best way to say this because I'm not saying you're wrong because
Oh,
you're
that's
not
okay.
wrong. You're definitely right, but at the same time, it's not impossible, and that's what I'm trying to prove with collecting the GameCube set for a second time, and that's why I'm documenting every step of the journey because I'm trying to show people that it is still possible to build a collection without spending market value. Right now I'm at 278 GameCube games and I've spent about 43% of market value on this entire collection. So I've saved literally thousands and thousands of dollars off market value just by employing a variety of different techniques that I use to try to get good deals or get games for cheaper and all that sort of thing. So I'm trying to prove and show people with this series of me chronicling this journey that it can be done. Certainly not easy. Takes a lot of work, takes a lot of knowledge, takes a lot of patience, but it definitely can be done. I mean, oh, there's some consoles that it is almost impossible to do it with, but I'm trying to show people that for the GameCube at least it can still be done.
And I know I'm gonna get back to Retro Rick with like a separate topic, because I know it's a
Hmm.
very big one with your channel.
Yeah.
That he actually does one. I think it's called the $10 collection challenge. I was
Hmm.
almost confused by how that worked, but I think it's mostly just you start off with $10 and then you just kind of go from there, and then you can sell other doubles off to be able to go and use that money for
Hmm.
other things in the collection. I hope I got that correct, because I never have delved into that very much.
I can explain it if you want me to.
Okay, go right ahead.
So yeah, basically he starts with a $10 bill
Hmm.
and he takes that $10 bill and he tries to find the most profitable things that he can flip possible. So for example, let's say he buys with that $10, let's say he buys two items and those two items together are worth or he thinks that he can make profit on those two items, let's say $30.
Hmm.
And that's after, shipping and fees and everything. So now all of a sudden after he sells those two items, he has $30 in the fund. And then he might take that $30 to try to find more things that he can flip. And then let's say he finds some more things he could flip, and then all of a sudden he's got $75 in the fund. So then he might be like, okay, we got a pretty decent amount of money in the fund. Let's use some of this money to buy a few games to go into the collection. So he might take $25 of that $75 and buy a few games to actually keep in his collection. And then he's going to take that other $50, try to find more things to flip. So he's just trying to build up a fund of money by buying and selling things that are very profitable that he finds out in the wild. And he tries not to spend too much on games to add to his collection because he's got to have some money for buying things to flip. So it's a balance of, taking some of the money to buy things to go into collection, taking some of the money to buy things to flip to keep building that fund up. And then he just does that over and over, rinse and repeat in a very smart way until all of a sudden, before you know it, he's got this huge quantity of games that he's essentially not spent any money on because he started with that $10 bill and kind of built it from there. So that's kind of the how it goes, and he documents every single step of it along the way, all the numbers, all the financials, and it's pretty fascinating, man, that he does that and pulls it off.
Yeah, I just only know of the name Retro Rick from I'm trying to think of the channel Retro Liberty, because I know that he's been on the show a few times. And since we're talking more about him, what made you want to contact him about your GameCube collection? Since I know that you were trying to get your retail or rental property business off the ground, and I assume that's actually going well for you right now, ain't it?
Okay, so let me just start from the beginning on that, and we'll kind of,
Mhm.
and I'll kind of answer the questions as I go along. So yeah, I've had the plans to start a business for a while now. Now the business is actually a photography and videography business with a start in real estate. So I'll start by doing real estate photography and videography, and then eventually I'll start adding more services outside of real estate. But it's essentially going to be a photography and videography business with more of an emphasis on videography because I know a lot more about videography than I do photography, but I'm learning a lot about photography too. But anyway, so I wanted to start that business without taking on any debt. So I didn't want to take out
Mhm.
a loan to start that business. I wanted, because and I still needed quite a bit of equipment. And then, obviously there's some other business costs that I needed to pay for. So I needed a pretty decent chunk of money. So I sat down and thought hard about it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell my GameCube collection because I know I can get a pretty big chunk of money out of it, and it would be more than enough money for me to be able to get what I need to start this business. I'm going to sell my GameCube collection, but from the very beginning, I always knew that I was going to recollect it. And I knew that I wanted to turn that into a video series. And so I started contacting a bunch of people. It wasn't Retro Rick at first. I contacted Phoenix Resale. I contacted a game store in Columbus that was interested. And it came down to this game store in Columbus and Retro Rick. Now, the game store in Columbus actually offered me a little bit more money than Retro Rick. It was a few more $1,000, but the
Oh
problem
wow.
is, yeah, but the problem is that game store obviously was going to sell the entire collection, whereas Retro Rick wanted to buy it to keep. He wanted to keep the entire collection, and that was very important to me. It made me because dude, I spent so much time and effort building that complete GameCube set. So for me, selling it to somebody that is going to keep it would make me feel better than selling it to a game store where it's going to go to hundreds and hundreds of different people and be split up.
Mhm.
And Rick's offer was more than fair for both of us. It was more than enough money for me to get the rest of the equipment and business expenses that I needed for the business, and the fact that it was going to go to him. And I knew he was going to make a video out of it. So I'm like, "Hey, this could also be a good opportunity for the channel because he'll make a video about it. I'll make a video about it. Our videos will kind of be two different sides of this one story. And it could be a good way for me to pull in some audience and pull in some traffic to the channel. So so that's what I did. Sold it to Retro Rick. He made a video, big video, one of the biggest on his channels, on his channel. It's one of his highest viewed videos. I made a video, one of my highest viewed videos on the channel. So that worked out really, really well. And then also, I got the money from Rick, which was more than enough money for me to get the rest of the things that I needed. And by the way, I just want to say this now for you and your audience, anybody
Mhm.
watching. Retro Rick, awesome freaking dude. One of the best dudes in the community. Really, really, really nice guy. Really genuine guy. Couldn't be freaking nicer. Just a great, great, great guy. So I'm just saying that because there's, he gets some haters in his comments from time to time, and these people they don't know him. He's a great guy. So, anyways, just wanted to throw that out there. So yeah, sold him the collection. Everything went well. I haven't officially started the business yet because I'm trying not to rush into it. I'm trying to take my time and make sure that I'm ready before I rush into it because a business like this, when you're doing photography and videography,
Hmm.
especially for real estate, you don't want to start until you know for a fact you can put out a quality product because in this type of industry, if you put out a subpar or bad product, real estate agents talk, that word is going to spread quick and your reputation is going to be hurt from the very beginning. And then it's going to be an uphill battle. So I'm not rushing into it, but I'm probably about a month or two away from officially launching it, I would say. I only got a few more things that I've got to do to be able to be ready to launch the business. So man, it's just been
Mhm.
the whole thing's been a crazy journey. And obviously, doing the collab with Rick on those videos has led to a lot of growth in the channel. It gave us a huge bump, and then that helped us with the algorithm, and now we're kind of seeing more steady growth. I mean, we were seeing decent growth before that, but it definitely
Mhm.
helped for sure. But I don't regret it at all. I do not regret selling my GameCube collection. It's been a blast rebuilding the collection, and I'm doing it for cheaper than I did the first time and more complete than I did the first time. And we're turning it into a video series, and that's been a lot of fun, and people seem to be enjoying it. So that was a long-winded answer to your question, but there you go.
But no, that's what we like to hear on the show because we like hearing a lot of really heartwarming stories, and
Mhm.
the fact that you decided to go with Retro Rick on that, considering he is a collector himself, to me
Mhm.
is just as important as using the funds for capital that you need to be able to get your business
Right.
going.
Yep.
But since you talked about the video game store that you almost went with, would your
Mhm.
opinion our choice have actually changed had it been like collectors themselves, or did it just be like, yeah, that's nice and all, but I would probably prefer to do it Retro Rick because I know how much he wanted these games more?
Maybe. I mean, it's kind of hard to say on that. I probably still would have gone with Retro Rick. I mean, there's just many different ways why that was a smart move. Even though I could have got a little bit more money
Hmm.
from the game store, um, it I think going with Rick was definitely the better decision because it's already led to many opportunities for me with the channel more specifically, and it also, but prior to selling my GameCube collection to Rick, um, we weren't planning on changing to hunting content prior to that, but after hanging out with Rick for a couple of days and doing that deal and Rick kind of talking about what he does on his channel and all that good stuff. That was a big inspiration for us to decide to start the content or to change the content. But that's still not the only reason why we decided to change the content. Another reason why we wanted to change the content is because I needed to obviously if you're starting a business and running a business, you got to have a lot of free time to do that. So I
Hmm.
needed to free up more time. And the videos that we were doing prior to that, they were very production heavy videos, very scripted. Took a long time to write, took a long time to film. The pre-production and production process was very intensive and it was a very time consuming process for me. So I needed to free up more time to be able to focus on the business and doing hunting videos. It's the pre-production and production process is a lot faster. Not necessarily easier, but it's not as time consuming. So that enabled me to be able to free up a lot more time to be able to work on the business. And then once I launch it, to be able to actually run the business. It'll be part-time business, but still requires a lot of time.
And hopefully it goes well for you within
Hmm.
2023, because I know that there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that'll hopefully have a new place to live at, and hopefully
Hmm.
that'll be one of your properties that you have on hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope so.
All right. So, well, since you talked about game hunting aspect of things, let's dive into a topic that me and you are pretty much familiar with, and that is the convention scene. I'm
Hmm.
usually a vendor. I haven't done any video content related to that, but you yourself, along with Retro Gaming Pandemic, usually go to conventions in Columbus and
Hmm.
go around to other vendors to find deals. What to
Hmm.
you is like one of your favorite conventions that you frequent? Is it any in Columbus, or would you say something like out of state that's somewhere like Southeast Game Exchange that you were a guest at?
Yeah, Southeast Game Exchange is hands down my favorite convention without a second thought. And I think I think it's turning into one of the best game conventions in the country. Certainly the biggest and best game convention in the Southeast. It's just such an amazing convention. Both years that I've gone have been a great experience. Just all around great experience. Um, Corgs was a little bit of a rough experience. You know why? Because the
Hmm.
freaking air conditioning wasn't working. That was not fun. Not fun at all, dude. I couldn't make it more than like 2 or 3 hours before I was finally like, nah, I gotta go. I gotta get out of here. But also I was out of money. There's no ATM, no ATM there, and the internet was horrible.
Oh, yes, it
So
was.
I couldn't even do PayPal transactions with people because we couldn't connect. So that was kind of rough. Gary did say that I think he said he's going to try to get a different venue next year, maybe one that has air conditioning.
Hmm.
But I still enjoyed Corgs though. I still had a good time and I got a lot of good stuff there. Game Jam South is another really good one. It's a fairly new convention. It's in Huntsville, Alabama now, and actually the guy that runs Game Jam South partnered with Austin from Southeast Game Exchange on that convention, and they're it's going to get bigger and bigger every year as well. So that's going to turn into a pretty big convention. I don't actually live in Columbus. I actually live in Tennessee, a little bit north of Chattanooga.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so I'm not too far from Columbus. It's like 7 hour drive, which is I travel so much these days that a 7 hour drive is nothing. It feels pretty easy to me now.
Since you mentioned about what was it? Game Jam South, I think
Hmm.
was the name of the title for
Hmm.
the convention. Yeah, I remember that they were just starting out right. I think it was like the last year that my shop was open, but I didn't think that they were going to get it as popular as they are. And then there's channels like, not Retrowolf, who's the one that was in the convention that I'm thinking of?
Cheap Finds Gold Mines went
Yes,
there. The Flipping Accountant was there.
Phoenix Resell. That was the other one I
Phoenix
was thinking.
Resale, yeah.
Yeah, because I
Yep.
remember that they were doing their video there and going around, and I think it was in a gymnasium, which was close by to the other one that I was attending that had kind of the same amount of space too. So
Mm.
it's good to be able to see them getting any sort of attraction to get any new people in, because I think
Oh
that
yeah, for sure.
and big not customer base, but enough of an attendees to be able to come in to be able to expand it out
Mhm.
is really important. Now, is that to you like the one thing that you look at the most to be able to go to a convention like that, or is it just the matter of attractions like special guests or vendors that are specially designated to a particular convention that you're attracted to the most?
I mean, I just like going to conventions, man. Honestly, you know, they could have no guests, and I'll probably, if I'm able to go, I'll still go. So like, I just have fun going to conventions and filming and checking it out. If I could, if I had the time if I had the time and the money, I would literally try to hit up as many conventions as I possibly could, even if I have to, you know, travel across the country, like to the one in Oregon. But unfortunately, that's not realistic right now because, you know, it's expensive. Lodging is expensive. Freaking travel expenses are expensive. So that's a challenge, man. Trying to figure out financially how to attend some of these conventions that are a little bit further away is definitely a challenge. But I mean, I do love going to conventions and like even if I'm not a guest, I don't. There, I'm not going to say any names,
Hmm.
but there are some YouTubers out there that will not go to a convention unless they're a guest, and I'm never going to have that mentality, man. That just to me that's kind of weird. I just enjoy going to the conventions, enjoy meeting people, enjoy, you know, linking up with some of my friends and all that to me is the best part about them.
And at the same time, since you mentioned about the mentality of being high and mighty, like the popular type that will
Hmm.
only go to a convention if you're invited to it, the one
Yeah.
thing that me and my friends usually do, and we're doing this around Retropalooza in October, I actually had like barely enough money to be able to get a plane ticket for it.
Hmm.
And we were talking about hotels, and it's like I'll be willing to chip in. I just don't have a whole lot of extra funds. And they agreed to basically pick up the bill. So what I decided to do is like as a way of thanking them for doing that, I was gonna do like a
Hmm.
trade for some retro video games, so that way they won't have to pay for them at any vendor's booth.
Hmm.
So it's stuff like that I think definitely helps the community out because when you
Hmm.
make friends in the community, that on top of that to get like the deals to pass the buck off to
Yeah.
other people, so it does actually help better than others.
So let me give you a little tip. And you may have done this before, you may know about this, but
Hmm.
so my best advice, if you've got a group of people and you want to get some nice lodging and make it pretty cheap when you split it up, dude, Airbnb is the way to go. You go on
Oh
Airbnb,
yes.
you can get an entire house with multiple rooms, multiple bathrooms, sometimes cheaper than a freaking hotel room, and usually some pretty nice places too. I've used Airbnb a lot. And actually, last year when I went to Mo GameCon, me and a bunch of YouTubers split up an Airbnb, and it ended up coming out to like $30 or $40 a person
Oh
total, and
wow.
it was 2 nights.
Huh.
So yeah, dude, Airbnb, I'm telling you, man, Airbnb is the way to go. You just search the area for entire home, find something that's nice but still, relatively affordable. And when if you have enough people to chip in, you split it up, it can come out to be pretty cheap. And if there's not enough beds, you can bring air mattresses or use couch or whatever. There's
Hmm.
ways to handle that. So like for Mo GameCon when we did that Airbnb, I slept in the basement on a freaking air mattress. So, you know, um, but that's the only way I would not have been able to go had we not done that because that saved me so much money in lodging. And man, Retropalooza is one I want to go to so freaking bad, dude. But it's the lodging is what's gonna kill me on that one. So I just don't know if I'm gonna be able to pull it off, unfortunately. But maybe next year.
Well, actually, I was gonna say that if you ever need a lodging or like a place to be able to stay for that whole weekend, I'm sure that we've got extra rooms, so you're more than welcome to actually jump in for that with us.
Hey, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about it after the thing. Let's talk
After
about
the
it.
recording, sounds good. So we're basically winding down to the last bit. So before we get to the last segment, on the topic of the convention side of things, when you look for deals, what are some
Mhm.
of your favorite things you like to look out for? Because I know sometimes people find like old Super Mario paper plates that are for like a birthday
Mhm.
party variety pack from like the late 80s that some
Mhm.
people have found for $5. What to you is like a very oddball thing that you thought you would never seem to get your hands on, but you always wanted to be able to get your hands on?
Maybe I'll just go with Tiger Electronic handhelds because I've actually started to collect those recently. Within the last, I think like the last 6 months, I started collecting Tiger Electronic handhelds. So anytime I go to a convention, I'm usually on the lookout because number one, a lot of times at a convention you can find them for pretty cheap. Number two, a lot of times you can talk the vendor down because there aren't very many people buying Tiger Electronic handhelds. So usually you can get pretty good deals on them.
And I know that aside from like the Sonics, and I know that there's like a Symphony of the Night
Mhm.
electronic one that I think that was the last one that was ever released. But for some reason, I've never seemed to see that one out in the
That
wild.
one's that one's extremely rare and extremely expensive.
And I can imagine that because I know that just like with video games and consoles, if there's like a late release, that those seem to be the very sought after and very
Hmm.
highly collectible ones. But yeah,
Hmm.
Tiger Electronic handheld ones, and what about the McDonald's electronic ones? The ones that are like the very tiny little Happy Meal toys?
Yeah, so I actually don't have any of those, but I think Eric from Retro Gaming Pandemic actually got one for me on a whatnot auction for pretty cheap. So I guess I'm about to have
Oh,
one. I think it's a
nice.
Sonic one.
Nice. Yeah, they did the Sonic Racing.
Hmm.
I think it was like the Happy Meal set for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
Yep.
there's some cool ones because I know that there's one with a Sonic in a car and you push buttons and you're avoiding obstacles and stuff. So,
Hmm.
I mean, they're not all terrible games,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into our final segment of the recording, and that is for our little spot called Five Count. So, what this is our little, not necessarily top five, but your five
Hmm.
chosen content creators that you would like to tell the people out in the internet land about who you think people need to check out that isn't getting enough attention, or just people you're checking out on Twitch or YouTube right now?
I will start with GameCube Galaxy.
Hmm.
So Marcello over at GameCube Galaxy, he's been growing really good lately. And he, in my opinion, has the best GameCube content on YouTube. I think he is going to be the best GameCube channel on YouTube. I think he will end up being the definitive place to go for GameCube content and GameCube knowledge. So definitely gotta throw out GameCube Galaxy. Also, he's just a great dude. He's become a really, really, really good friend of mine. I call him my GameCube brother. So, and I got to meet him at Siege
Oh,
a couple
nice.
weeks ago. So for the first time, so we got to meet and hang out in person. So that was great. Definitely Retro Gaming Pandemic. I'm sure you expected me to throw them out.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So they just hit their, well, I think they're close to hitting their 1 year anniversary
Mhm.
here, I think in a week or two, maybe. It was shortly after Siege last year when they started the channel. So they're doing really good. They're approaching, I think, 800 subscribers now. Their content is really good, very high quality editing, high quality production,
Mhm.
entertaining stuff, and they're great guys, really good friends. So definitely got to throw out Retro Gaming Pandemic. Next one is a channel that I actually just got into. I met him at Siege. His name is Seth. His channel is called Tiger Chainsaw. And he has a show on his channel called the Tiger Chainsaw Show, which is almost kind of like a talk show for video games centered
Mhm.
around a review. And it's very, very original, creative, entertaining stuff. Really, really high quality. He puts a lot of work into it, and it's definitely not getting the love that it deserves. So he definitely deserves more recognition. Let's see what else. Two more.
Mhm.
Two more. Let me pull up my if you don't mind, let me actually pull up my subscribe channel list to see what kind of pops out at me here. Let's see. Do I want to throw out a bigger channel or do I want to keep it to some smaller channels, right?
Oh,
That's
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 your
kind of
call.
what. Yeah. So I mean, I guess I'll throw out a bigger channel for the next one. So a bigger channel that I watch regularly is Spawn Wave. So
Oh,
every
yes.
weekday at 8 a.m. I think he's become like the best resource for daily video game news in
Mhm.
video format. He does a very, very good job putting his news show together. It's very quick, just the facts. He tries to report on the video game news from an unbiased standpoint for the most part and stays very professional because, dude, one thing I can't stand about some of these channels that do video game news is I don't really want to hear their personal opinion on it, man. I just want to
Mhm.
hear the news. I want to hear the facts. I don't care to hear what their personal opinion is because sometimes that leads to some biases in how they report the news, and I don't like that. And he doesn't do that, so that's one of the things what I really like about his channel. And also every Saturday night he has the Spawncast, which is a really good video game podcast. I enjoy that one quite a bit. So yeah, I'll throw that one out there.
Yeah, I
Let's
recommend that
see.
one too.
Yeah, 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 definitely good stuff. Let me find one more to throw out for that number five. Let's see here. You know what? I'm gonna throw out another big channel, and one of the biggest actually, and that's Metal Jesus Rocks. Now here's the
Of
reason why I'm
course.
yeah, and
Mhm.
here's the reason why I'm gonna throw out his channel. His channel, I think, is very, very important in today's climate because he, he number one, he's obviously very passionate about gaming and collecting. The passion just bleeds off the screen. Number two, he keeps his content very positive, very upbeat. There's no negativity in his content at all. It's all very positive. There's no drama on his channel.
Hmm.
There's no politics. It's just the pure love of gaming and collecting. And a lot of his videos are also very informative and very educational. And I really, really respect that about Metal Jesus Rocks because oftentimes a lot of channels start to insert drama into their content or even negativity, and I don't like that. Like my own personal philosophy with my own channel is I try to keep negativity and drama completely out of the channel and just focus on the fun of gaming, the fun of collecting, and keeping things positive. So that's what Metal Jesus does, and he does a great job at doing it. So I got to throw his channel up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about Metal Jesus is that a buddy of mine got me to check out his videos, and this was like right around the time I was just trying to get into retro gaming content. And the
Hmm.
thing is, he's kept the style of his videos the same
Yeah.
consistently without like altering any differences on it. I think he's had
Hmm.
the same logo where it's like the skull and then
Hmm.
it has Metal Jesus and some like
Yeah.
artwork on the background, kind of like a rock vinyl album cover.
Hmm.
So honestly, yeah, that is like one of the few content creators who I would like to be able to meet in person. And I know we
Hmm.
tried to get him on the show before, but as expected, he is a busy man, and I can
Yeah.
understand how busy he can actually get a lot.
Yep. And I can confirm, super nice guy in person because I got to meet him and hang out with him a little bit at Siege a couple of weeks ago. Very, very, very nice guy. Very friendly, very chill, down to earth. So yeah, basically what you see on his YouTube channel, that's him. That's Metal Jesus, you know. So same with the Game Chasers. What you see on their YouTube channel, that's them. That's the Game Chasers. You know, yeah, when you meet them in public, that's who they are. So it's the same kind of thing, and that's what I like, man. I like it when I meet YouTubers or bigger YouTubers, and they're the same as the how you perceive them on their channel because that means that they're being genuine when they do their content. That means they're showing their true selves. You know what I mean?
Yes, that is 100% true, because I've been friends with Billy and Jay, mostly Eric, but Eric's usually like the least busy of the three.
Yeah.
So honestly, I love those guys to death.
Oh yeah,
I hate
great
the
guys.
fact that they have like their haters, but honestly, they're doing their thing, they're having a good time,
Hmm.
and I am proud of them for finally getting the movie out.
Hmm.
It is honestly one of my favorite YouTube content creator movies
Hmm.
that I've been able to
Yeah,
see. Didn't get the
I
chance to see it
love.
in theaters though.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I love it. I don't know if you know this or not, but I was actually on the movie set for 4 days. I helped with the movie a little bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually in the movie in a couple of scenes as an extra.
I gotta go back and
Hmm.
rewatch that again because I
Hmm.
think I was half tired when I was watching it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend anybody who's watching this to be able to go back and try to watch that movie. It's really really
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, I
So
was I was I was fortunate enough to be able to make it to the premiere in January, man, and it was great. It was a blast, man. It was just a really, really good time, and being able to see it on the big screen in a legit movie theater was awesome.
I'm pretty sure that it's a good enough feeling to be able to be a part of something that big when that was
Yeah.
being produced. So this
That
was
it,
awesome to be able to hear that from your
mhm.
side of the story.
Yeah, and that's actually being on that movie set for 4 days literally changed me because that's what started to get me into a love of filmmaking and videography. That whole experience, man. So now ultimately what I'm trying to work towards is being able to make my own movie or TV show or whatever. So that's kind of what I'm slowly working towards. That's kind of end game goal for me in the future.
Well, hopefully, once we get to be able to do more of these, that maybe by next year we'll do another recording and be able to see the progress on how the acting side of things is going for you.
Yeah, yeah, I've got a short film project that it's in the works. So, maybe by next year it'll be ready and released. So I hope so.
Well, here's hoping it goes off or gets off the ground and be able to get out there for the general public to check out. But Retrowolf88, thank you very much for coming out for this interview. I wasn't expecting it to go as long as it did, but we were able to get about 55 minutes out of this. So thank you very much
Nice.
for being a part of the show, and hopefully we'll be able to
Hmm.
hear back from you in the future sometime.
Yeah, man. Hey, listen, thanks for having me on. I love doing things like this. I love meeting people and talking and having discussions like this. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, man.
It's all the beauty of the hobby. But once again,
Hmm.
thank you very much for coming on for Select Screen, and we'll hope to hear back from you again soon.
Thank you.